The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you today by Draft. Looking for the best fantasy sports site on the planet? Sign up with Draft today. For a limited time only, our listeners will receive $3 matching their first deposit of at least $10. Use promo code DTR or visit draft.com/DTR to sign up now. Draft. Fantasy for the people. Now enjoy the show.
Caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. Robert Wood, touchdown. LA. Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. Picked off. Marcus Peters coming off the edge, and Ryan will be wrapped up by Clay Matthews. Everett in stride. Wow!
Franklin Myers gets his hand down there.
Leto got a hand on it. Did he pick it? He did!
Racing down the sideline is Akeem Talib. Gurley for MVP! Touchdown LA! Picked off by John Johnson. Well, Dante Fowler, who is able to get to Breeze. Greg Zuerlein sends the Rams to the Super Bowl! LA will play for the Lombardi!
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It's episode 261. I'm your host, Jake Ellenbogen. Joining me, as always, is Alexis Kraft. And you are here for the Rams and Ravens preview. This is, of course, a big game for the Rams. Many are calling this the Super Bowl for the Rams this year because this is it. If the Rams do not win this game, it is going to be very difficult to climb out of this hole. They would be going 6-5. The two teams in the wild card right now, the Seahawks and the Vikings, both have 8 wins apiece. They could both improve that to 9. The Rams don't play against the Vikings, so really the Vikings at that point control their own destiny, and the Rams can only gain 1 game on the Seahawks. So it becomes really difficult. This is pretty much a must-win. Pretty much every game at this point is a must-win, in my opinion. But you know, I at least that's how I feel. But before we get into it, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, and spread the word of DTR, aka Downtown Rams. Alexis, your thoughts on that must-win tag? Am I being too harsh on the Rams?
No, I mean, we have to win this game. I mean, it's not even up for debate. I mean, if we even want a shot at the wild card, we have to win. Like you mentioned, Seattle is also fighting for that wild card. And just in our division alone, guys, like we've been stressing, we are in the same division as the 49ers and the Seahawks, who are doing very well this year. So it's a no-brainer. We have to win this game. If we don't win it, that could be, it pretty much is the end for us. And so not only is it a must-win game, but I think that this is going to be the toughest opponent that we face for the rest of the season. The Ravens are on fire. Just look at what they did against Houston last week. I mean, Houston is also a very good team, and Baltimore blew them out. So, Baltimore has a lot of different weapons. Obviously, the main weapon for them is Lamar Jackson, who is their quarterback. And he's going to be he's very challenging to play against just because he's so tricky and you can't really know what to expect from him. But guys, they're kind of good all around. They have an overlooked defense. I think they do have a very good defense. They have a good offense. It's going to be a real test for the Rams, and it's also a must win. So I don't think you're being too harsh when you say that we have to win this game. It is what it is. And, the Rams, it's a Monday night game, prime time. Everyone's going to be watching. It's going to be a battle for sure.
Yeah, of course. And you said, you started off with the defense and really just, them being overlooked. And I do agree. I think this is the best team in football right now. I think, just the way the defense has played, it's kind of been overlooked because of how explosive the offense has been. They're leading the league in points scored per game. And just looking at this defense, you're getting all of this production out, up front with Michael Pierce and Brandon Williams and now Jalen Ferguson, the rookie who has been on the Downtown Rams podcast before. We both spoke with him, but they're just getting all this different production. And then you have, Bynes and Patrick Amusor and, Matt Judon, who I think is, one of the more underrated pass rushers in the game. And then in the secondary, Marlon Humphrey's turning into one of the better lockdown corners in this football game. And, Earl Thomas, you have to obviously worry about him. Chuck Clark is pretty underrated in a sense. They are using Brandon Carr kind of all over the field. He's, I guess, their Swiss Army knife in the secondary. And then they have Jimmy Smith, of course, Simon Marshall, Anthony Averett, and the man, the myth, the legend, Marcus Peters, who comes from the Rams. Now, the interesting thing here is that Marcus Peters was what the Ravens were missing. I think just kind of from watching the Rams since Peters left, it's unfortunate because I'm a huge fan of his and I wish him the best of luck. But it's pretty obvious that he was pretty much like the Rams were a round hole and he was a square peg. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think he fit into the defense. And I think Wade Phillips did extra to his defense to get him acclimated and to make it work. But let's be real here. Going back to the Denver Broncos with Wade Phillips when they won a Super Bowl, Aqib Talib playing bump and run, they didn't have that. You didn't have that physicality on the line of scrimmage. Somebody like Jalen Ramsey can kind of play anything because he's scheme versatile. But with Marcus Peters, he's more of a zone corner that wants to take gambles and risks and things like that, and doesn't want to play right in his, right in the, receiver's grill. So, for that reason, I do think that he has a perfect fit in Baltimore. I think that's what they've been missing. And I think that's what has really turned their defense around, because they did give up 40 to Cleveland and they gave up 33 to Kansas City back-to-back weeks. But I will say this, the Rams know Marcus Peters. So if you think about it, the Ravens defense, the difference is maybe you can make the argument, Jalen Ferguson is getting, more confidence. Obviously he is a rookie, so he's a lot better than he was maybe earlier in the year. But aside from that, it's really been Marcus Peters is the difference between, the Ravens defense then and the Ravens defense now. And the interesting thing about that is I think the Rams, having known Marcus Peters now for a year and a quarter, year and a half, maybe, I'd probably say a year and a quarter, but they'll be able to scheme against him. They know his strengths, they know his weaknesses. And I think it's really up to Jared Goff at that point to not, let Marcus Peters ruin, the game, because he is somebody that will take it back to the house. He is somebody that can break open the game, but he didn't really do much of that with the Rams. He, had a couple plays where he, stepped in front, read the play well, and took it back for 6. But aside from that, he didn't really do that. So I think the Rams, knowing his weaknesses, will be able to scheme around that. And so I think that makes the Ravens defense more like they were when they played the Chiefs and they played the Browns. So that's really the interesting dynamic here.
Yeah, and I think that you're right about Marcus Peters as well, because he does seem to be thriving in that Ravens defense in a way that he wasn't with us. And like you said, we wish him the best and are excited that he's having personal success. But obviously, we hope that he does poorly when we play against him in the Ravens. And I think that this game is going to be interesting because we've had some interesting things happening with our team. One of those things is Jared Goff, and that's been such a source of controversy among Rams fans and a source of frustration. And, people who listen to the podcast know how I feel and know how you feel. And I just think going into this game against the Ravens, in order for Jared Goff to be successful, there's two things that really need to happen. I mean, first, the offensive line needs to play like it did last game. That's a no-brainer. We were very impressed with the way that they played, and they need to do that again. But secondly, I mean, Jared Goff has just got to be smarter. A lot of people kind of make the excuse that, he's not playing well because he's getting hit a ton. Well, last game he wasn't getting hit a ton, and the offensive line played great, and he still was making a lot of really, really dumb decisions. So this game, he needs to not do that. especially against this Ravens defense, especially against guys like Earl Thomas and Marcus Peters. So it's just that I think that's going to be an interesting factor, because I think how Jared Goff plays is going to play a really, really large role in the Rams' success in this game. I think they also need to run the ball like they did last game and utilize Todd Gurley more. I mean, we started to see that in the Rams last game. They utilized Todd Gurley a lot more than they have the rest of the season, which is something that a lot of people wanted because for whatever reason they weren't. So I just think offensively, we have to make things happen. I mean, also defensively, because obviously the key to winning, the number one key would probably be shutting down Lamar Jackson. But like, that's really, I won't say that's not possible. But I wouldn't say that that's going to be something easy to do. But I still think that overall the Rams' key to success is to play well offensively this game. We got to pick it up offensively. We've had a very lackluster offense. It's been very boring. It's been very frustrating. And I think that in order to win this game, we got to pick it up on offense. We'll have Brandon Cooks back, most likely. Kind of up in the air about Robert Woods. I do know he was at practice today. So I would assume that points to him playing against the Ravens. So hopefully, we have all of our offensive weapons. Hopefully our offensive line keeps up the great work like they did last game. And hopefully Jared Goff gets it together.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. I think it's really imperative for them to continue the mold that they kind of established last week. I've been saying it all week long to anybody that's asked me, my thoughts on that game. First off, with this team, it's less about the score now. It's not about, this isn't like a fun offense like it was last year. It's not like, oh, let's see if we can get to 50. This is like, oh, let's see if we can get a W. And I find that very interesting. It's made watching the Rams, more nerve wracking and things like that. But I think it was really important for them to lose to the Steelers. I think it was equally as important for them to lose to the Steelers as it was last year, dropping those two games back to back to the Eagles and the Bears, back to back Sunday Night Football games, because I think it woke them up last year. They changed what they were doing. They went and got CJ Anderson, and then, everything changed and it propelled them away to the Super Bowl. Sometimes, you got to lose the game and you got to learn, from your mistake. And I just look at it as you learn more from losses than you do in wins. And, McVay, he was either going to prove to us that he's legit, or not legit, but he was going to prove to us that, this is somebody that's not, a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year wonder. This is somebody that can make adjustments, realizes, things are not okay. And he knows why that could be, or this is going to be somebody that just ended up folding. And I never expected that. So when we were talking about it on the podcast, I thoroughly believed that, Sean McVay would go back to the running game and would, do exactly what they did last year when Goff struggled. Goff had a career low 18 pass attempts, and I was okay with it. I know some people were not, but I don't really care, because I think, the most important thing is they got Todd Gurley going. And everyone's asking me, well, I didn't know this Todd existed. I thought, his knee, like, he was just gone. I'm like, no. Todd Gurley may have lost, like, his overall explosion. He may not be as fast, but like, look at Ezekiel Elliott. There's no way you could make the argument he is just as fast as he was his rookie year. So I'm not really worried about the speed. However, I do think he is very explosive. I think he's still a top back in this league. And I think, of course, when he's given the opportunity, he's going to have success. Now, keep in mind, 97 yards with that offensive line probably equates to over 150 and then some with last year's offensive line. Their blocking schemes, things like that, it just seemed different. So as great as the offensive line played against the Bears, I will still say it wasn't last year's offensive line. So I was really impressed with the way Todd Gurley ran the football. And I like that Sean McVay is going back to that plan. Now, here's the thing. You are going up against a tough front of the defense, and you're looking up against guys like Michael Pierce that are great at stopping the run. Guys like Chris Wormley and guys like Brandon Williams, they can plug up those gaps. But I still expect Todd Gurley, knowing the back he is, as long as he gets his touches, he is going to be able to make an impact. And I think this game is going to be an interesting one. Whether it's an anomaly the rest of the year, we'll see. But I do think you'll get a good game played out of Jared Goff. I think it's, you're going to see the Rams being at home back-to-back weeks with a little bit of a break because they do play on Monday instead of Sunday. I think it's definitely going to help tremendously. I also think, getting Brandon Cooks back and potentially also having Robert Woods back is going to be huge for this offense. And really, this team needs to focus on running the football and establishing play action, because when does Goff absolutely cut open defenses? It's when he can have that play action and it takes the top off the defense, and it makes things easier. Guys are open consistently because now the defense has to, respect the run. And I think last week was a step in the right direction, but the Steelers game ultimately was the key for Sean McVay finding himself. And I think the Rams did it, and right in the nick of time against the toughest team that they play on this schedule.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing, to point out here is I think one of the biggest question marks in this game is Lamar Jackson. Let's be real. He's been playing out of his mind this season. Honestly, would get the MVP if it wasn't for Russell Wilson and the way Russell Wilson's been playing. But honestly, wouldn't shock me at all if Lamar Jackson ended up getting it at the end of the season. I mean, this guy has just been playing lights out, incredible. He's so hard to diagnose. Teams really don't know how to defend him. I mean, what do you think we have to do in order to stop Lamar Jackson? Because my theory is we're probably not going to stop him per se, but we can definitely minimize the blow. I think that, the best way to kind of, I guess, keep him, I don't want to say controlled, because again, I feel like you can't really control somebody like Lamar Jackson, but I think what we have to do is just do the best job we can of shutting down his receivers, which is then going to force him to run. And then we just kind of have to take him head on with the run. I mean, if we can shut down his throwing ability, then I think, at least we can attempt to try and stop the run, because, I just don't know what other options we have. I mean, I don't want to count him out really with anything, but I do think that that's the best way to contain him. Again, if you can contain him. I mean, what do you think our defense is going to have to do to minimize Lamar Jackson this game?
Yeah, so first off, they need to study the film with the Steelers, because the Steelers forced Lamar Jackson to 3 turnovers. They lost the football game, but they really did a nice job containing Lamar Jackson. That's really the word here. It's containing. You're not going to shut down somebody that has that athletic ability. I will say, one of the big things the Rams could try, and if they do this, I seriously believe that they are listening to our podcast week in and week out, because, obviously they ran the football, but I felt like that was a no-brainer. But actually, funny thing, Alexis, when we brought up the fullback last week and saying how it would help to have a lead blocker and use a fullback, the Rams used a fullback as a lead blocker for the first time in 3 years. And that came after our podcast. I'm just saying. But anyway, the way I see it is, and I don't expect them to do this at all, Alexis, but I would make the argument. You saw the way rookie cornerback David Long played. You saw the way Troy Hill played, and you see the way Nickel Roby-Coleman plays every single week. I propose that the Rams use Jalen Ramsey in the box as the quarterback spy. He's athletic enough to somewhat slow down Lamar Jackson. He's big enough to the point where, he's around that Mark Barron level of, pop behind his pads where you could, get away with him playing in the box. It sounds crazy, but hear me out when I say, who does Jalen Ramsey have to absolutely cover for the Rams to win this game? There's not one receiver that's like a Julio Jones or a Juju Smith-Schuster or an AJ Green or there's nobody. I like Willie Snead. I think he is very talented and he is very reliable, but he is not transcendent. There is no transcendent receiver yet on this team. Marquise Brown is the deep threat. Okay, he is a hit or miss. He has games where he'll have a huge touchdown or he won't, get anything. The Rams did a nice job against a receiver just like that with the same exact abilities with Taylor Gabriel. Another guy, Miles Boykin, who you saw plenty of times at Notre Dame, very talented receiver, but he's also very raw. And I don't think he is going to have much of an impact in this game. Then you have guys like, your Seth Roberts. And I don't think they have a receiver that's 100%. You have to have Jalen Ramsey covering them. You have to have him shadowing them. So I think you could, and if any game made sense, this is the one where you could have Jalen Ramsey in the box as a quarterback spy. For those at home that don't know what I'm talking about, basically a spy is you're going to mirror the quarterback, and wherever he goes, you go. That is your job the whole game. So it sounds like you're minimizing Jalen Ramsey's talents, but at the end of the day, his sideline to sideline speed would be worth it and might actually combat Lamar Jackson running all over you. Now, there are ways to beat that, and of course, run up the middle. Now, Jalen Ramsey's kind of he's a great tackler, but, he might get bulldozed over, by Mark Ingram running downhill and things like that. I still think the good outweighs the bad in this case. That's how I would do that. And then I would have the Rams, their defense, have the same exact recipe for success when they had to shut down Ezekiel Elliott in the playoff game last year. They sold out for the run. They weren't trying to pressure. They were just trying to make sure they maintained gaps, didn't over pursue, and they were able to get the job done. Ezekiel Elliott only ran for 80 yards in that game, and that was really what led to a Rams victory. So in this one, Lamar Jackson can run. You have Mark Ingram, you have Gus Edwards, and you have the rookie Justice Hill out of Oklahoma State. There's a lot of talent there, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I think the Rams are equipped. They actually match up pretty well against this team. And if you guys are worried about Mark Andrews, and trust me, they have a really good stable of tight ends. Mark Andrews, they have Hayden Hurst, and they have Nick Boyle. I'll tell you right now, I'm very impressed with the way the defensive backs have covered these tight ends without the likes of John Johnson. They have Eric Weddle, they have Marquis Christian, and they have Taylor Rapp, and they can cover all three of these tight ends. So what it comes down to is, will Lamar Jackson be that much to the point where he just completely takes over the game? And I think he's obviously going to get his touchdowns, but I think the Rams do a good enough job to get the win in this one. So I do like the Rams in this one, and I do like, I think they'll have a game plan to shut down Lamar, not shut him down, but again, contain him. And I would love to see them do the Jalen Ramsey spy thing. I don't expect it to happen, but if it does, man, I'm going to be jumping up and down that I called that.
Yeah, I think it very well could happen. I think the Rams are definitely going to have to get creative with the way that they try to stop Lamar Jackson. So that's definitely one way that they could do that. I just think it's going to be interesting to see. I think maybe the Rams are going to have to figure it out as the game goes on, because he is one of the more challenging. Well, I'm going to say he is the most challenging quarterback probably to defend in the league right now. Him and Russell Wilson for sure. So I think that the Rams have a good shot. I think they definitely can. It's just so hard because it's like, I can't think. You brought up a good idea, but it is going to be hard to defend Lamar Jackson for sure. I just think the Rams got to go out there. I think they got to get creative. I think they'll probably have to make a lot of changes as they go. And I think that that's obviously going to be their biggest challenge this game is Lamar Jackson. Because like you said, there's not really any amazing receivers for the Ravens. You got Marquise Brown, I would say, who is doing really well this year. And, I guess you could say is their biggest threat as far as receiver goes. They do have good tight ends. They have good running backs, but just think that Lamar Jackson is going to be kind of the make or break for the Rams defense. So we'll see. I don't think anything's impossible. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. It's Monday night. It's prime time. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see how the game goes, honestly.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you there. I think, obviously Lamar has weapons, but he is, like, let's not get it twisted. He is the weapon, and it's going to be up to the Rams defense that bailed out the offense over the last few weeks to do it again. But actually, I'm going to take a different tune in this one. I think the Rams offense is going to come alive, and I do think that, by having Todd Gurley back, and by back, I mean being able to use him, and by having Brandon Cooks be able to take the top off the defense, and of course the way Cooper Kupp's playing, and they'll have their tight ends, because keep in mind last week everyone's like, why weren't they throwing their tight ends? Their tight ends were entirely used to chip defensive ends, so guys like Khalil Mack couldn't completely wreck the game. Now Bobby Evans played well, but let's not stretch it here. He did have a lot of help. It was very, very great scheming. Another thing that we talked about in the podcast, that they would probably have to do. But it was great scheming by Sean McVay and putting Bobby Evans in a situation, making it a little easier for him against one of the arguably best pass rushers off the edge in the league. This one, don't get me wrong, they still have talent on the edge, but I don't expect them to have to chip guys, like Jalen Ferguson or like Matt Judon. However, I will say this, because I don't expect them to have to do that. I think you might see Gerald Everett have a solid game. You might see somebody like Johnny Munt, who played a ton last week. He might have a solid game, and of course Tyler Higbee. But I just think the whole big thing here is that the Rams found their offensive line last week. If they figured out the formula, and Todd Gurley is running the football with confidence, and you're not taking him out and throwing him out of his rhythm, and you have your deep threat in Brandon Cooks back, and the way Cooper Kupp's playing and all of that, and as long as Robert Woods plays, you have everything there. What does it come down to? It comes down to number 16. If Jared Goff plays any bit like he did last week, I don't think they win this football game, because I think that they will ultimately have to continue to score and keep up with the Ravens. However, if he plays like he did last year while wearing these color rush uniforms that they are scheduled to wear, I think this game could be very good and could be almost a 10-point, maybe 13-point win by the Rams. He was phenomenal last year. So, how do I see it going? Actually, I'll ask you, how do you see this game going before I even say anything?
God, this is so tough because I could see it going a lot of different ways. I mean, if I was betting money on a team, statistically, if I was betting on a team, I'd bet on the Ravens. I mean, right? I mean, if you're looking at this matchup, you're going with the team that's been hot, it would be the Ravens. But I'm a Rams fan, and I want to be an optimist. But considering how we're kind of talking about my streak, that's kind of become a thing. Maybe I should go with the Ravens winning 28-20, 28-21. That's what I'm putting out into the universe, and I'm putting my name and reputation on. And by the way, if that should be good. Everyone should be happy that I'm doing that, right? If you've been following the podcast and you've been following us on social media, I'm just full of bad luck. So I'm rolling with the Ravens are winning 28-21. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, so the whole week before this week, I was just like, oh, the Ravens are going to win this game. Let's just move on to the Arizona Cardinals. But you know what? I'm feeling it. And I'll be the first one to say, if the Rams don't make the playoffs, or if they don't go to the Super Bowl, I hope this Ravens team takes the cake. I really like this team. Lamar Jackson might be my favorite player in all of football. He's my favorite non-Ram. So it's obviously hard, but it'll be a fun game. And unfortunately, I have to root against Lamar Jackson for a week. But I'm going to go with the Rams here. And the reason for that, I think desperate teams are the scariest teams. And we saw a little bit of that earlier in the year when Daniel Jones, beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He came out of nowhere, 4 touchdowns, and the Buccaneers season looked like it was crumbling. They go to LA and they absolutely, it was a 55-point barrage against the Rams, something that was just unheard of. And they did that, and then really since then they've just kind of been meh, because really they're not that great of a football team. But I think, those desperate juices really were flowing, and it got them to play the way they did, and I believe it's a real thing. So momentum's huge. I know the Ravens are killing it right now, and they don't, it doesn't look like really they should lose the rest of the year. They beat the Patriots handily, and they blew out the Texans. But they're also going to LA. They're also going up against a team that may have found their offensive identity, and a team that over the last few weeks has really found their defensive identity, and they've become one of the tougher defenses in the league. So if I'm wrong, I'll be wrong, but I do think that this is still going to be an offensive game, and I think you're going to get number 16 of last season, a little bit of it, just enough to win this football game. That's right. Jared Goff is going to have a good game in this one. He is going to play well. He is going to make the throws necessary to lead the Rams to a 35-32 game-winning field goal win by Greg Zuerlein, who will have, come back from missing the field goal against Seattle on prime time. So, he's got to get, his redemption for that. But I'll say this. It's not, I get it's not a popular thing right now. And trust me when I say, and Alexis knows this, I'm not thrilled with the way Jared Goff's played. And I have a lot of theories as to why he's playing this way. But the bottom line is all he really needs to do is get one game under his belt where he plays, he puts together a good 60 minutes of football. And then I think he's just going to get on a roll, because I think this is a streaky passer. And he has yet to do that. I think this is the game. The season's on the line, and you have all your guys coming back healthy. This is the reinforcements game, and this is the trap game for Baltimore. And I'll say trap, but really I don't think Baltimore's overlooking this. So I think 35-32, shows respect to Baltimore, shows how much I like them in this one, but I don't like them as much as I like the Rams at home. If this was in Baltimore, cold weather Goff, that's different. But I do think because it's in LA and because this is really it for the Rams if they lose, I'm taking the Rams.
Well, I hope you're right. I would love to see, obviously, the Rams win this game. I think it's going to be a good one. Like you said, I don't think, I'm hoping it's not a blowout, at least of the Rams. But I do think it's going to be a good game. I think both teams have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I think, it's going to be fun for us to maybe watch Lamar Jackson, but hopefully it's not too fun for people to watch him who aren't Rams fans. Hopefully he doesn't light it up. But yeah, I just hope it's a good game, and I'm looking forward to watching on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it should definitely be fun, and we'll see about that. But I think that's going to do it for Jake Ellenbogen. She is Alexis Kraft. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you're interested, I just want to throw this out there. I've decided to change my schedule. I'm going to be doing every day. I'm going to be doing a live stream in some facet. I just went on a Ravens live stream today. I'm going to be doing that every day, and then we're going to record at least 2 podcasts a week, the preview and the post game. And if you haven't already, check out Alexis and I if you want to listen to more of us on the Halftime Show podcast. And I'll also on the Downtown Rams Discord channel, if you're interested in that, I can get you links all over social media. I'm going to be doing some basically some voice chatting with you guys, just trying to keep the interaction at an all-time high and trying to push that. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate all your support and everything, and hope you guys enjoy the game and have a great weekend.